minutes.
Did you know? Portal is the spiritual successor to a game called Narbacular Drop, an environmental puzzle game developed by Nuclear Monkey Software. The object of the game was to solve puzzles by placing and passing through portals. Valve became interested in Narbacular Drop after seeing the game at the DigiPen Institute of Technology's annual career fair. Valve CEO Gabe Newell swiftly offered the entire team jobs at Valve. The team continued their work, using what they learned making Narbacular Drop to create a new game, Portal. Some smaller details in Narbacular Drop were carried over to the final game, such as the orange and blue color schemes to distinguish between portals. The portals did work differently in each game, however. In Narbacular Drop, you could fire a portal through a portal to reach a new location, something that can't be done in Portal. The team worked with Half-Life series writer Mark Laidlaw to fit the game into the Half-Life universe, which also gave them an excuse to reuse Half-Life 2's art assets and maximize the effort of their small team. The writers came up with the concept of having a computer lead the player through an experimental facility to test the portal gun. This quickly led to ideas for humorous situations and interactions between the player and computer, and the team decided this type of writing would work well in the game. Originally, there were more environmental objects throughout Portal, but they were ultimately stripped away due to playtesters trying to incorporate these objects into puzzles. The objects were distracting, so a largely blank area made it easier to see important objects and let the testers know what they had to work with. There were also plans for office areas to be playable after the test chambers and maintenance areas, but the team was short on time and couldn't include them. The final showdown with Glados was also changed. Chell would originally be chased by lasers, have to redirect rockets while avoiding turret fire, followed by a chase sequence escaping from Glados. The fight was changed based on feedback from playtesters who preferred a simple puzzle-like boss with a countdown timer. There were also plans to introduce Ratman, an elusive character who leaves messages throughout the maintenance areas, but this idea was cut to keep the storyline simple. Instead, Valve made a comic called Lab Rat that introduced Ratman and connected Portal 1 and 2's stories together. Work on Portal 2 began almost immediately after the release of Portal, and was planned to be a standalone product. Valve intended to re-surprise players in Portal 2 by only using all new mechanics. One of these new mechanics was named F-Stop, and was the focus of development for 5 months. F-Stop did get some positive feedback, but every playtester was upset at the lack of portals in the game. F-Stop was dropped from Portal 2 and put aside for possible use in another game. One of the new mechanics that did make it into Portal 2 were gels. Gels give the surfaces of objects specific properties to help solve puzzles. One of the gels, when unused, it allowed Chell to defy gravity and walk on any gel-coated surface. Although it was an interesting mechanic, it gave playtesters motion sickness and was ultimately removed. The game was also planned to have a competitive multiplayer mode. The mode would have been based around one team trying to move a ball from one side of an area to another using portals, while the other team would try to stop them. The matches tended to become hectic during testing, so Valve decided to ditch the mode and focus on the cooperative puzzles instead. The game was also first envisioned as a prequel to Portal set in the 1950s, where Aperture CEO Cave Johnson would lead an army of robots, which would battle against the player to rise to power within the company. Chell was going to be replaced by a new protagonist named Mel. Playtesters were up for the idea of Mel, but became disappointed when Glados didn't recognize them as the player from the previous game. In addition, some of this information was leaked online. After this, and negative playtester feedback about the omission of Chell and Glados, Portal 2 was reconceived as a sequel. Mel was then put into the multiplayer mode before being scrapped entirely and being replaced with Atlas and Peabody. The team returned to the idea of exploring parts of the facility from Aperture's earlier days and reincorporated Johnson through a series of recordings. Two inanimate objects in the original Portal have taken on a life of their own. According to Portal writer Eric Wolpaw, the idea of using the infamous Black Forest cake as the reward in the game came from a group meeting. At the beginning of the Portal development process, we sat down as a group to decide what philosopher or school of philosophy our game would be based on. That was followed by about 15 minutes of silence, and then someone mentioned that a lot of people like cake. The cake itself is a Black Forest cake from the nearby Regent Bakery and Cafe in Redmond, Washington, and its recipe is scattered among various screens in the game. The bakery's Black Forest cake has since boosted in popularity thanks to Portal. Another object in the game, the weighted companion cube, came to Wolpa while he was reading a, quote, declassified government interrogation thing. In this interrogation thing, it showed how isolation led to test subjects becoming attached to inanimate objects. Project lead Kim Swift stated, "We had a long level called Box Marathon. We wanted players to bring this box with them from the beginning to the end, but people would forget about the box. So we added dialogue, applied the heart to the cube, and continued to up the ante until people became attached to the box. Later on, we added the incineration idea. The artistic expression grew from the gameplay." Incinerating the weighted companion cube was added as a result of the final boss battle design. Valve recognized they hadn't introduced the idea of incineration in the game, but it was necessary to complete the boss battle with Glados. Incinerating the cube taught the player about the mechanic. Speaking of the companion cube, did you know there's currently an online theory exposing a dark secret hidden behind the cube's cute pink hearts? It's actually new on my channel now, so hop through this portal to check it out. But before you do, be sure to subscribe to DidYouKnowGaming on YouTube and follow us on the Facebooks and the Twitter. Also, be sure to check out DidYouKnowGaming.com, where we post gaming trivia every single day. Now, having subscribed, liked, and followed, port away, dear viewer, to see the companion cube's dark truth unfold.